Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. It was a Thursday night, around 9. I was cleaning up the kitchen when my phone buzzed. A message from Sylvia lit the screen. "Hey, I'm at Lucas's house. His dad died suddenly this afternoon. The whole family is devastated. Don't be jealous." I stared at it for a moment. The words didn't sit right. We'd been married 3 years, together almost 5. Sylvia and Lucas Rivera had dated in college, split years before we met. He still lingered in the background, though, liking her photos, sending the occasional message. I never made a fuss about it, but she knew I wasn't happy with that either. The part that caught me wasn't the death. People lose parents, and tragedies happen. What hooked in my mind was that last line, "Don't be jealous." Why even add that? Why assume I'd react that way unless there was something more to it? I texted back calmly, "My condolences. Take your time." A few minutes later, she replied with a heart emoji and, "This is why I love you. So understanding." I put the phone down, but I couldn't let it go. Something was off. Out of habit, I opened the obituary listings from the local paper. Nothing about a Rivera. I checked the funeral home's websites. Still nothing. Then I looked up Lucas's father on Facebook. His profile was public. His last post was that very morning, a picture of him smiling like he'd won a tournament. I leaned back in my chair. Something didn't add up. Confronting Sylvia right then would just give her room to twist it. Instead, I wanted something concrete. The next morning, I called a florist and ordered a bouquet. "For the Rivera family," I said. With sympathy for your loss, I asked them to deliver it that afternoon. A quick online search gave me the exact address. If Lucas's father really had passed, it would be received with gratitude. If not, well, someone alive would answer that door. Either way, I'd have my answer. That night, I went to bed alone. Sylvia hadn't come home yet. I set my phone on the nightstand, the florist's receipt saved, and waited for tomorrow to tell me the truth. The florist called me just after lunch the next day. Delivery confirmed, a man answered the door and signed for it. I asked, "Did he look upset?" "No, sir. He looked fine. Older gentleman, gray hair. He thanked me, said he didn't know why he was getting sympathy flowers, but he took them anyway." That was all I needed to hear. Lucas's father, alive and well, had stood at his front door and accepted a bouquet that said, "Deepest sympathies on your loss." Not even an hour later, my phone lit up with incoming calls. Lucas. I still had his number from years ago, back when Sylvia first introduced me to him. I let them go to voicemail. Finally, I listened. "Martin? What the hell? Why did you send flowers to my father? My dad's fine. He thinks someone's threatening him. This isn't funny." I texted back. "Sylvia told me Thursday night that he died suddenly that afternoon. I was trying to be respectful. Is he okay?" No reply. 10 minutes later, another voicemail. "This is a huge misunderstanding." When Sylvia finally came home that night, she looked pale, almost rehearsed. "Hey," she said softly, setting her purse down. "So, there's been a mix-up." I didn't move from the couch. "Go on." "It wasn't Lucas's dad. It was his uncle. I got confused. They were really close, and Lucas was devastated, so I just said dad without thinking." I kept my eyes on her. "Which uncle?" A pause. Too long. Then, "Robert." I nodded slowly. "Strange, because I sent flowers to his parents' house." His father answered the door himself. Her face drained. She tried to smile. "You sent flowers?" "Yes," I said flatly. "To honor the man you said was dead." She sat down across from me, her hands shaking. "Okay," I panicked. "I didn't want to tell you I was with Lucas. I knew you'd overreact. We were just talking." I leaned forward. "So, you invented a death?" "It was a white lie," she shot back, voice rising. "You're acting like I murdered someone." "You're so controlling, Martin. This is why I didn't tell you the truth." I didn't yell. I didn't move. "We'll sleep in separate rooms tonight," I said. "Tomorrow, you give me the real story. No more lies." She opened her mouth to argue, then shut it. She grabbed her bag and stormed upstairs. I sat there in the quiet, listening to her footsteps. The next afternoon, while I was at work, I got a message request on Instagram. It was from Joanna Lee, Lucas's girlfriend. I didn't know her personally, but I'd seen her in photos with him before. The message was short. You don't know me, but I think you deserve to see this. Attached were screenshots. Sylvia had been texting Lucas for weeks. The tone wasn't friendly, it was emotional, intimate. Things like, I still think about us, and Martin doesn't understand me the way you did. One thread showed her telling Lucas she was basically single because I was cold and distant. Then came the real gut punch. A photo Lucas had taken the night Sylvia claimed she was comforting him about his father's death. She was in his bed. She looked half asleep, clearly at home there. I read every message twice. It was all about them. That evening, I waited until Sylvia came through the door. She tossed her keys on the counter like nothing had happened. Sit down, I told her. She hesitated, then sat. I placed my phone on the table and slid it across to her. Care to explain? Her eyes darted over the screenshots. She went pale. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you lied about a man's death to cover spending the night with your ex. That's exactly what it looks like. Her voice cracked. It was one time. I didn't plan it. I panicked. I kept my tone even. One time? Because these texts show weeks, multiple meetings, and this photo says more than any excuse you can give me. She slammed her hands on the table. So what? Our marriage hasn't been perfect. You don't even try anymore. I shook my head. Sylvia, this isn't about perfect. It's about respect. You don't lie about someone dying to get out of the house. Her eyes filled with tears. So that's it? You're just going to throw me away? I stood up. You'll pack your things tomorrow. I want the keys. You can figure out the rest from your mother's place. She reached for my arm. Martin, please. I pulled back. This is finished. The morning after Sylvia moved out, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Dozens of texts, apologies, anger, begging, threats, all within hours. By noon, she'd sent me over 50 messages. I love you. Don't throw this away. Then, you're pathetic. Lucas treats me better anyway. Followed by, please, let's talk. I ignored every single one. By the weekend, it escalated. I heard a knock on my door late Saturday afternoon. Standing there were Patricia, Sylvia's mother, and her brother Derek. Martin, she began in her rehearsed motherly tone, you can't just toss a marriage aside over a misunderstanding. I didn't invite them in. She lied about her ex's father dying. That's not a misunderstanding. Derek crossed his arms, glaring at me. She made a mistake. Don't be dramatic. I stayed calm. Cheating is a choice. Inventing a death is manipulation. Patricia stepped closer. You've always been so rigid. Relationships need forgiveness. I shook my head. They also need honesty. And she ran out of that a long time ago. When they refused to leave, I called the police. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. I explained the situation. The officers told Patricia and Derek they were trespassing and had to leave. As they walked off, Patricia shouted, "You'll regret this when you're old and alone." I closed the door without replying. Later that evening, I checked social media. Sylvia had started posting carefully worded updates. Sometimes we outgrow people who stop caring. I finally had the courage to leave a loveless marriage. The comments were full of her friends calling her brave. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a private message to 5 of our mutual friends, the ones whose opinions actually mattered to me. I attached a concise packet, her text about Lucas's dad dying, the florist receipt, the screenshots Joanna had sent, and a copy of the police incident number. Within hours, the tone online shifted. A couple of Sylvia's friends deleted their supportive comments. Others went silent. That night, my phone buzzed again. It was Sylvia. You're turning people against me. This is abuse. I blocked her number. Sylvia didn't disappear. She changed tactics. On Monday morning, my manager pulled me aside. Martin, HR needs a word. I walked in and found Ellen Carlson from HR holding a file. She looked apologetic. We got a complaint from your wife. She claims you're harassing her. I pulled out my phone and showed her the security report. That's all we needed. You're fine. She's banned from the property, she said. 2 days later, my landlord called. Martin, just letting you know, your wife emailed me saying you're an unstable tenant and might cause disturbances. I told her I've never had a quieter renter. Don't worry about it. It was almost comical, watching her run out of angles. But then came the part that truly showed how far gone she was. A courier delivered an envelope to my apartment on Thursday night. Inside was a typed, notarized letter titled Reconciliation Agreement. 6 demands were listed. I issue a public apology for overreacting. I delete all messages, screenshots, and evidence. I pay for couples therapy, chosen by her. I apologize to Lucas for embarrassing his family with the flowers. I allow Sylvia to move back in immediately, and we agree to never discuss the incident again. At the bottom was her signature and a deadline, 48 hours to accept or I will move on permanently. I read it twice, then slid it back into the envelope. After Joanna exposed the affair and sent me the screenshots, Lucas cut Sylvia off completely. From what Joanna told me, he wanted nothing more to do with her. Too much drama. Sylvia didn't handle the rejection well. She spammed his phone with messages about how they were meant to be. He blocked her completely. Days later, I saw Sylvia's newest post. She was smiling in a photo beside Noah, Lucas's close friend. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe sends you someone who finally sees you." I leaned back in my chair and shook my head. If Noah thought he was special, he had no idea what was coming. By the following week, Sylvia was parading Noah all over social media. Dinner selfies, coffee dates, hashtags like new beginnings and true love. I stayed quiet. I didn't need to say a word. Then the cracks appeared. Noah called me out of nowhere one night. His tone was tired, almost embarrassed. "Martin, I owe you an apology. She's not stable." I stayed quiet, letting him continue. "She called my ex-girlfriend last night, told her to stay away from me. The thing is, my ex lives in London. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. Sylvia tracked her down on Instagram. She said she was protecting what we have." He sighed. "I can't do this." I didn't gloat. I just said, "Good luck, Noah." 2 days later, Sylvia launched a blog called Breaking Free. Each post painted her as a survivor of a toxic marriage. She never used my name, but it was obvious who she was talking about. She wrote about a husband who controlled her every move and isolated her from love. For a while, strangers in the comments praised her bravery. But then, people started asking questions she couldn't answer. Friends who had seen my evidence weren't fooled. Slowly, her blog traffic dipped, and comments turned critical. Within a month, the site was set to private. Sylvia, though, was running out of moves, and I knew the endgame was coming. A few weeks later, I filed for divorce. She didn't contest it. There wasn't much to untangle. No kids, no house, and the apartment lease was in my name. The process was quick and clinical, but when the judge read the decree, it hit harder than I expected. Not out of loss, but because it closed the book on years of my life that had started with real hope. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in months. 2 days later, I was at the grocery store when I spotted a familiar face in the produce section, Lucas's dad. The very man Sylvia had declared dead in that first text. I walked over. "Mr. Rivera? I'm Martin." He looked at me for a second, then his eyes lit up. "Martin, wait, you're the flower guy, aren't you?" He chuckled. "My wife still tells people that story. Nicest bouquet we ever got, even if it came with a scare." We both chuckled, and then his face turned serious. "That girl, Sylvia, she's been calling our house. At all hours. My wife finally blocked her number." "Not my problem anymore," I said. "Smart man," he said. That night, Sylvia sent me one last email. The subject line read, "You won." The message was long and messy. She wrote that I had destroyed her life, that Lucas wouldn't talk to her, Noah had blocked her, her parents were ashamed, and she had to move back home. She ended with, "I hope karma gets you." I replied once. It wasn't one lie. It was months of lies, cheating, and blame. "I hope you get the help you need." 5 minutes later, she responded, "I hate you." I didn't reply. I blocked her for good. Life moved forward. A couple of months later, I started seeing Elena Morales, someone from my climbing gym. We kept it slow, steady, honest. She knew the whole story. Sylvia is back in her hometown, working for her uncle's insurance office, posting quotes about rising from the ashes. The comments are turned off. Me? I'm living quietly, simply. No lies, no drama, no late-night texts about someone else's dad dying. And honestly, that's all the closure I need. Thank you for watching.